Welcome home, my little hellhounds. 'Tis the season to get scared and terrified. So please enjoy these daily uploads of all the scary creepypastas I can find. So if this is to your liking, then please rip the flesh off that like button and swallow the subscribe button whole. And don't forget to hunt down that bell icon so you never miss an upload. And if you have any scary stories, whether true or creepypasta, then submit them to Reddit r/homeofscares and follow me on Twitter at homeofscares. Now, let's get right into it. Our principal's last day was our school's worst. Posted by Rose Black 2222. Principal Rosser was a fucking asshole. Most people in our school referred to him as Principal Rotter, including the other staff. I don't think there was a single person who had anything nice to say about him. He enjoyed that. Causing people's misery was his enjoyment. He made sure that what he did wouldn't get him in any kind of legal trouble. However, he milked it for all it was worth. He gave out detention slips like brochures and forced teachers to work ungodly long hours. If that wasn't bad enough, he'd never use the utensils in the lunchroom. Oftentimes, he'd just grab a handful of whatever food he wanted and drop it onto his plate. This is already considered rude and inconsiderate behaviour on its own. What made it worse, in Principal Rosser's case, was the fact he didn't wash his hands. When he wasn't doing that, he was busy confiscating things from students and teachers. Plus, he'd often steal from school funds and fundraisers. The reason why he acted like this was revealed on his last day. I shuffled into my first period class, groggy and tired. Our teacher, Mr. Hendrick, had his face down on his desk. His fingers were wrapped around a coffee mug, and a pot of it was in front of him. He groaned, lifting his head, revealing dark circles under his eyes, and pouring himself more coffee, despite it being piping hot, as indicated by the steam coming off it. He drained it in one gulp. Okay. Today we learned about... The intercom turned on, interrupting him. All staff and students report to the gym for a special announcement. A look of confusion came over Mr. Hendrick. Never mind then, he continued. Everyone, grab your things. Do you have any idea what this is about? My friend Kenny asked me. No clue, I replied, rubbing my eyes. We went into the gym. A mic and stand had been set up in front of the bleachers. Once everyone was present, Principal Rosser walked in carrying a large briefcase. He tapped the mic, testing to see if it was working, then cleared his throat before speaking. I'm sure you're all wondering what this is about. Well, it is to inform you that after many fun years for me at this school, today is my last day. Dead silence followed this for a couple of moments. Then the gymnasium erupted in applause. Mr. Hendrick went from about to fall asleep on the spot to standing up, clapping and whistling. As far as everyone was concerned, this was the second best thing that could have happened to Principal Rosser. When the cheering died down, he continued speaking. Which is why I'm going to make the most of this one. He held up his briefcase, undoing its latches. It fell open, revealing what looked to be an old journal. Murmurs of confusion came from everyone. What you're seeing are things I only bring out when it is time for me to leave a job. Would anyone like to read this? He held up the journal. Instantly, Kenny's hand shot up, faster than anyone else's. I didn't raise my hand because I found the situation too good to be true. I mean, why would someone like Principal Rosser do this? Given what I knew about him, it didn't make any sense. I wasn't the only one who thought this. There were other people there who kept their hands down. Unfortunately, Kenny didn't share this sentiment. He practically hopped down the steps, grabbing the journal from Principal Rosser's hand. Upon reaching the floor, he wasted no time in opening it. Principal Rosser's secrets were disturbing, to say the least. Kenny didn't read it all word for word, since it was pretty big. Rather, he skimmed through it, looking for the juicier parts. Principal Rosser not only turned out to be a dick, but a psycho as well. His journal detailed incidents of him committing assault, vandalism, and theft, among other crimes. In one entry, he admitted to stealing a handful of money from a charity jar. In another, he said that he punched a Girl Scout and stole both her cookies and money. These were just some of the many crimes he committed. Are all these true? Kenny asked him in shock. That's right, he replied, smiling slimily. Every last word of it. What the fuck is wrong with you? What entry are you on right now? Kenny glanced down at the journal. The one where you say you slashed Mr. Hendrick's tires. So that was you, he yelled, standing up. You bastard. That's right, Fred. That was for hiding your Twix bar from me, and now you're all about to pay. Once again, everyone became confused at Principal Rosser's words. If there's anything I hate, it's slackers, and that's what all of you are, he screamed, pointing. We shrunk back at his words, and the crazed glint he now had in his eyes. But now, he continued, you're going to pay. For you see, your hatred of me will spell your end. He cocked his thumb up at the ceiling. A lot of you have been wondering why I had these black lights installed last month. Well, now I'm going to finally answer that. He grabbed the mic from its stand and went over to the light switches. While all you lazy asses were busy sleeping in, I came into the gym early in order to make this, he said, flicking off the lights, then turning on the black lights, illuminating a bunch of runic type symbols on the floor, painted with invisible ink, and a large pentagram that took up most of it. It was difficult scrubbing over all of the crude pictures you all drew, plus the jokes you wrote about me. But now, it'll all be worth it. He reached into the inside of his suit, pulling out a knife. Shit, Kenny yelled, stepping back. What are you going to do with that? I felt my heartbeat quicken, seeing that knife. Principal Rosser, now sporting a chillingly wide grin, replied to Kenny, now that I've gotten both extreme joy and anger, it's time for the last step. He began chanting in what I think was Latin. Then, before anyone realised what was happening, he had brought the knife down and sliced open his own palm, making us all gasp. He let out an orgasmic moan as he let the blood from his palm drip onto the pentagram, resulting in it becoming a flame. What the fuck? Kenny yelled. There was no way past the fire due to how big the pentagram was. As if that didn't freak us out enough, Principal Rosser started levitating off the ground. His eyes had become black, and he was letting out a maniacal laughter. It was at that point everyone decided getting the fuck out of there would be a good idea. Fortunately, there were some exit doors beside the bleachers. Unfortunately, the panic spreading throughout the gym was causing everyone to trip over each other. Despite all of this, I managed to make it to the floor before anyone else could. It wasn't because I was particularly fast. It was because I ended up getting knocked down the stairs. Kenny had already gotten to the double doors. You're not going anywhere, Principal Rosser declared, sprouting multiple arms from his back and stretching them across the gym to grab people who were trying to escape. What the fuck are you? I croaked in fear at him. Horns grew out of his head, making me realise that he was a demon. I wondered why I wasn't that surprised by this revelation. That didn't make it any less horrifying though. Those he grabbed screamed as they were being dragged across the floor. What he did to them next was far more terrifying than what I had seen thus far. What are you going to do to us? Mr. Hendrick asked in a shaky voice, as he and others were being dangled upside down. Thanks for volunteering. Principal Rosser's mouth grew wide and eyes began glowing. The screams of those he was holding ceased, and their eyes also started glowing. What I saw next I can only describe as Principal Rosser sucking out their essence. The light from them entered his mouth in a stream. As it did, they grew older, and Principal Rosser became younger. His hair went from being mostly grey to black, and his wrinkles faded. Not only that, the colour of his eyes was changing, going from brown to blue. Not only that, his hair was going from blonde to black, which was the colour of Mr. Hendrick's hair. I realised then that Principal Rosser was taking on the appearance characteristics of his victims. When he was finished, their now dried up bodies crumbled to dust. That felt so good, he grinned, looking at the rest of us. Are you going to do that to us next? I asked in a weak voice. No, I can only do that to those who unwittingly agree to it. In other words, those who didn't raise their hands are safe. Seeing as how several of my bones were broken, the word safe was being used in a very loose sense. But now that you mention it, Principal Rosser continued, I feel as though I'm forgetting something. He glanced over at the doors and saw that Kenny had snuck towards them and was nearly outside. Principal Rosser went from gleeful to enraged, letting out a roar that shook the gym and sent chills down my spine. He shot his arm towards Kenny. Fuck! Kenny yelled, getting dragged to the floor. He happened to get pulled by me and my heart sank when he grabbed my arm with his free hand. Understandably, the fear he was experiencing caused his grip to be like iron. That didn't stop Principal Rosser though. He yanked us towards him. Now he didn't know that Kenny had taken hold of me. Due to this, his anger turned into surprise when he saw me coming towards him. Realizing what was about to happen, I braced myself for impact. My face collided with Principal Rosser's, breaking his nose, causing him to cry out in pain and drop us onto the burning pentagram. To my surprise, it didn't burn us. When the stars in my vision cleared, I noticed that the blood gushing from my nose had gotten onto the pentagram, somehow causing the fire to disappear. You idiots, he roared at us. You disrupted the circle. His body began jerking and his many arms retracted back into his body as well as his horns. I was so close, he screamed, stomping his foot. So, does this mean you're not going to kill me? Kenny asked. Principal Rosser's head whipped in his direction. Yes, that's exactly what it means. God damn it. I better get out of here. The wallets of his victims had fallen out of their pockets. He gathered them, then ran out of the door. I managed to get to my feet and saw that those left were also injured, thanks to the chaos of everyone trying to escape. As a matter of fact, Kenny and I were the only ones still conscious. You used me as a meat shield, I growled at him. Is that really what's important right now? Still very angry with him, but knowing he was right, we called the hospital and the police. Of course, telling them the truth would have made us look insane, so we came up with a more believable explanation. We told them that Principal Rosser had lied about there being a bomb in the school, which had caused massive panic. Luckily, they didn't press us further for information. That explanation ended up being the one the rest of the school went with. Police searched his home and found it was almost entirely empty, like he'd been ready to move at any moment. Since he was already long gone by then, there wasn't much they could do. At least, we got the rest of the day off. However, what he did to the school haunted it for quite some time after. Even when the school got a new principal, we still worried about seeing him again. Eventually, this feeling did go away. It's all in the past now, but God help the poor bastards who end up with him as their supervisor. And that's it for tonight, my little hellhounds. Thanks for listening. I hope you're enjoying these daily uploads. If you have any scary stories, then submit them to Reddit r/homeofscares and follow me on Twitter @homeofscares. Don't forget to like and subscribe. and click that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload. Now, good night, my little hellhounds.